Today on Locked On Rockies, we conclude our look around the diamond for the Colorado Rockies with a look at the starting rotation. Something that didn't change a ton, something that we'll see a lot of familiar faces. And does that set up a return to form for last year? Or can we hope for some improvement? All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 13th day of March in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You are in the right spot. That is what we do around here, is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every day here, live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Your subscription to Locked On Rockies on YouTube and your 5-star reviews are a big-time help with the show, so I appreciate all of that. We've had so many more people subscribing, some new faces popping into the live chat, and you can join them. But just like Joel DeGrace hanging out with us here, getting ready to talk about Rockies pitching today, conclude our State of the Position series, something I do realize I just kind of copied the entire title from Purple Row, and I will just own up to that. But you know what? It's the same thing. They're talking positions. We're talking positions. It's all good stuff. What's wrong with a lot of Rockies talk, and they go way more in depth than I get to have time to. So, of course, if you want to go more, I always encourage you to go support all of our friends in Rockies media land, especially our friends at Purple Row. So, the Colorado Rockies starting rotation, and if you look in the description of this episode, it asks the question, do the Rockies have an ace? And some years you could say yes. Some years you could say no. Can we call Kyle Freeland or Germán Márquez an ace? Even though we've kind of seen them have up and down seasons, we've seen a lot of them. We know who Kyle Freeland is for the Colorado Rockies, right? There's not a lot of things that are out of that would necessarily surprise us or change things. We've seen Kyle be pitching for the Rockies now since 2017. Germán Márquez has been throwing for the Rockies since 2016. We've seen these pitchers and we've seen them a lot. And people, especially here on the pod, here in the live chat, are down on the rotation. And understandably so. We saw worrisome trends from both Germán Márquez and Kyle Freeland last year. But we also still saw flashes of their abilities and why I'm never truly going to give up on these two pitchers especially. While I don't think the Colorado Rockies have a bona fide ace, I don't think any of the Rockies pitchers on their staff would be a number one on any team in baseball. And in my eyes, that's kind of what I think of as an ace, at least a number two. Personally, I think the Rockies have, for elite pitching teams, where the Rockies rotation, the best pitchers in the Rockies rotation, who in my eyes are Germán Márquez and Kyle Freeland, Jose Urena is going to be knocking on the door, I think, because of that sneaky end of the season that we saw last year and his return to the Rockies, which will be interesting. We're going to talk more about Jose here later in the show. But I think if it's not crazy to say that Germán Márquez or Kyle Freeland would be a number 3 starter for any program in Major League Baseball. Any team would start and have Kyle Freeland or Germán Márquez in their rotation. To say that the Rockies would be the Rockies could have benefited, sure, going full rebuild and trading Germán in the All-Star year, but these are two pitchers that have been solid. I mean, more than solid Germán Márquez is a career 17.4 WAR player with an ERA at 4.40 in 172 games and nearly 1,000 innings for the Rockies with 966 strikeouts and a whip of 1.287. Over that time, too, Germán's had 300 walkouts. So he's for 7 years of pitching with the Rockies, he has his home run numbers, he's only given up 299 walks compared to striking out nearly 1,000 batters, and he's given up less than 200 home runs all time. Now, Germán Márquez can get dinged up a little bit as he has averaged at least giving up 20 home runs throughout the season, inflating things up to a career high 30 last year. But he's also dominant. We know how good he could be. We know that what he's capable of. He was in Rookie of the Year voting back in 2017. He was an all-star just in 2021, looking at times to be the most dominant pitcher in baseball. There was a time where Germán Márquez was the best pitcher in baseball. It's one of those things where, yes, it's kind of meaningless because it was just a small answer of time in short period of time, but there was a point where Germán Márquez was dominating everybody, and I still do believe that the next player to throw a no-hitter in Colorado Rockies history will be Germán Márquez. When Germán Márquez has his strikeout potential, when Germán Márquez isn't leaving pitches over the middle of the plate and hitting his spots, he's dominant. He really is great at striking batters out and getting, he's more of the pitcher that when he is just in a groove, you just feel it. He brings an energy, he brings a confidence, and when he is in rhythm, he dominates. I still don't think I don't think we're going to necessarily see him being an all-star again, but I do think we'll see a better Germán Márquez this year. Last year was the first time in Germán Márquez's career outside of the pandemic and his first season in Colorado, where he only got 6 games, where he didn't reach double-digit wins and finished below 500 when it comes to his win-loss total. I think Germán Márquez tried to do something different last year and realized it didn't work because he had a career worst year. Last year was Germán Márquez's worst season as a Colorado Rocky. And I don't think after showing us that he's been a good to dominant pitcher at sometimes to a great player for the Rockies in 6 of his 7 years, more 5 if you disregard his rookie year, that there isn't reason for me to be hopeful that he can't bounce back for a solid season this year and put himself back at the start of the rotation and be the number 1 for the Colorado Rockies. I'm not going to doubt the guy that has been the best option for the Rockies as a starting pitcher in seasons past. I think he still has the capabilities to be great. I definitely do. He's only 28 years old. I think that Germán Márquez could be entering some more of great potential. I'm not down on Germán Márquez after one bad year. I'm down on the rest of the pitching staff because it falls off a cliff, at least when you scope it in 2022. And I was frustrated with what Germán was doing. But to say that a pitcher can't have a down season and not bounce back is crazy. We've seen pitchers bounce back from stuff, but it's incredibly important that the Rockies do get a bounce back season from Germán Márquez. Germán Márquez is one of the most important Rockies on the entire roster. If Germán Márquez is pitching well, that is a great sign. It's just one of those things that the Rockies are in a good place when a player like Germán Márquez is in a good spot. You can say that just like with Kris Bryant. When Germán is on, the Rockies have a better chance of winning. But last year we saw what happens. Germán can get banged around, and if he comes out this year and he still has control issues, and he still gives up big home runs, and gets and give the Rockies get the Rockies down early, especially on the road, that's a problem. It's a big problem. That's something Germán has to avoid. He cannot be the guy. The Rockies need to turn to Germán to keep them in games on the road, especially, and keep them and let them step on the gas at home. And I believe that Germán can do it. I'm not, my analysis here isn't to tell you that Germán Márquez is going to win the Cy Young this year. My analysis here is to tell you that Germán Márquez has been a great pitcher more often than not in his career, and there's reason to believe that he should bounce back and get closer to where he was in 2021 than 2022, because he's done that most of his career. And he's still in the prime. Now, the Rockies still have the same pitching staff. They still have the same head pitching coach. That could be something that gets in the way there. But, you know, Joel DeGrace brings up a good point, and I'm not sure the specifics, but this has happened in the past. Didn't Márquez go blow for blow with Scherzer or DeGrom last season? I seem to remember there being a hell of a good game through 6 or 7 last year. Germán's been in tons of duels with great pitchers. Germán has stepped up and gone up against some of the best pitchers in baseball and has gone blow for blow with them. Germán Márquez has been someone that the Rockies really, really can depend on, and someone where he really helped this team. He was crucial in the success for the Rockies. And as the season went along, outside of September, in the back half of the season, we saw improvement. He got better from June. He had an ERA of about 5, got it below 4 in July. August, 3.77. September, things flared up again. Again, very wishy-washy season for him, but we can't sit here and ignore all the good that Germán Márquez has done. I still think Germán Márquez can be the number 1 starter on this team, but on the flip side, I think Kyle Freeland is also still in that position. Let's talk Kyle Freeland. Let's talk more of the Rockies rotation. A little bit of talk about Kyle Freeland, talk about Jose Urena, and let's talk about the people at the end, especially Austin Gomber maybe making it back into the rotation, who's on the bump for the Rockies in spring training today. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about our friends at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. No matter what you're looking for, LinkedIn has you covered. You can just add your job to your LinkedIn profile in the purple #hiring frame to spread the word that you're hiring. With the simple tools like screening questions, it'll make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. That's why you got to post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. Terms and conditions do apply. We want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We also stream live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can ask questions and comments just like Joel DeGrace and Rat King are. We'll dive into that in just a moment, but want to let you know you can check out all the fantasy baseball action with the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast and the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. And I keep forgetting this one, but it's new. It's got to be. It's here for you as well. Gearing up for a big season in Boulder. The Locked On Buffs podcast. So lots of Colorado sports action. It's my, lots going on still, folks, in the world of Colorado sports. Let's see here. Rat King says, Paul, I really want to know what kinds of pitchers you think cores the best. Flamethrowers, fastball, slider guys. How about lower versus faster spin rate? I think Coors Field, you need to have a unique approach each time. But I think the Rockies aren't too crazy to believe in their defense, especially given the past. And that's why I believe in Kyle Freeland. I think there's a couple of philosophies. I think that you can look at it in 2 ways. If you don't have anyone hitting or touching the ball, then the offense and the impact of Coors Field is going to be mitigated. If you're able to blow by people and use your velocity and things of that nature, that's great. I definitely think the development of pitching needs to be a high velocity slider. It needs to be something with high speed and movement, because if you leave it something high up, it will get caught up. But the movement's the other thing. Look at Germán Márquez. You could see when Germán missed last year. he would be throwing balls right down the middle of the plate. So I think high velocity and pitches with movements like sliders, I think sliders are really going to overtake fastballs. We're already seeing slider usage up immensely amongst pitchers. But at Coors Field, I don't think it's crazy to believe in your defense, especially for how long, and especially with the way Kyle Freeland does it. Kyle Freeland's really good at getting double plays, and that's to build confidence there. I think the Rockies' overall approach from starting pitching, shouldn't be too scared to let people hit the ball and let your defense back you up, because the Rockies historically have had good defense, especially in the infield, to back it up, and especially when the idea of, if you're going to be a pitch to contact type of hitter, it's weak ground ball contact. Rockies had a lot of really great guys at fielding. I think at fielding weak contact stuff in the infield, and that's why Kyle Freeland's so successful, is because he is really good at getting weak contact in the infield. However, I think great bullpen pitching is high velocity stuff with movement. I think no matter where you are, if you have someone that can come out of the bullpen and just throws pitches that just aren't humanly possible to hit, that's the move. And Ubaldo Jimenez is one of the greatest Rockies pitchers of all time, and a strong argument to be made for the greatest Rockies pitcher of all time. So I got to agree with Joel DeGrace there. He was a sinker slider guy. Pitches, if you can throw a ball with movement that's also fast, that I think you're going to be great, and locate it. I mean, that's key though, because the biggest Achilles heel of being sinker slider or being someone with those movement pitches and really relying on that movement is, one, we know that pitches don't break as much, and there's the science and stuff at Coors, so you have to reevaluate and figure out how you throw those pitches. And two, if you miss, if you hang, it gets banged. So I think that's one thing to consider. And that leads us in here to the Kyle Freeland conversation. And it's a lot of similarities here. Folks, I'm not going to doubt Kyle Freeland when Kyle Freeland has been a good pitcher his entire career. Again, I'm not saying he's winning the Cy Young. I'm not saying he's going to be, he might not be the best of the best. But if Kyle Freeland can induce as many double plays as he induced last year, if he can reduce he didn't give up 20 home runs last year. I mean, 19, that's essentially 20, but he's stayed under the 20 home run given up mark in his career more than he's not. And he's someone that's the biggest concern for Freeland there from 21 to 22, huge increase in walks. Huge increase. Free bags are never a good thing at Coors Field, and the biggest thing that the Rockies, the issue with starting pitching, especially last year, was so many free opportunities, and then teams took advantage, especially with the fact that the Rockies were giving up home runs. Again, let me just go over the career numbers for Kyle Freeland, and you can't sit there and say that's horrible. Because it's not. It's not DeGrom. It's not Scherzer. It's not Verlander. But it's solid, good pitching that you just kind of have to relish in the fact that the Rockies have a Colorado guy that's really good at inducing ground ball contact and fits the Colorado Rockies pretty much perfectly. Yes, he's not flashy, but he's, again, here's the career numbers. 16.4 career WAR. 49 and 51 on the win-loss totals. Arguably, one thing you can point about last season, the defense of the Colorado Rockies betrayed Kyle Freeland more than any pitcher last year. There were some abysmal games where Kyle Freeland was dominant or kept the Rockies in them, but he was not backed up whatsoever. And I'd argue that's followed him for a good chunk of his career. Kyle Freeland has kept Rockies in ball games and has had successful pitching that's been undone by terrible luck and terrible defense at some point. And there were some prime examples, especially early in the season last year, that you can point to that Kyle Freeland was on. That again, when in something like a stat like win-loss or runs scored or runs allowed, is a little inflated, not due to his own fault there. Career ERA of 4.27 ERA in 150 starts, 828 innings, 641 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.4. 1.407. So, you know, that the big difference that you're seeing between Freeland and Márquez is Márquez is going to strike people out. Freeland isn't going to do that. I'd love Kyle Freeland to strike out more batters. I absolutely think that's something he needs to do more of this year, something that he needs to improve on and be something that is someone that the Rockies can turn to strike people out. But he still get 131 strikeouts in 2022. That's a big increase from 2021 of 105, and an increase from 2019, the last full season. I kind of always skip the pandemic season. I'm sorry, it's 79. So we know it's, again, Rookie of the Year voting, Cy Young voting. Was in the top 10 and top 5 in those categories, respectively, but people know what these pitchers are capable of, and that is success. Good seasons, strong seasons from Kyle Freeland and Germán Márquez the Rockies will win more games. And I really don't think, I don't think trading them away necessarily gets you the value in return. I think the Rockies' holes would be too big, and the trade value is a little too much, where I think the Rockies can rely on these two pitchers to be accountable and pitchers you can rely on. And I think that's exactly what they're hoping to get to from Jose Urena here coming up as well. The other option who's going to be the third arm in this rotation for the Rockies, someone that I wasn't quite sure was going to come back to the team, but has come back to the team, saw something with this team, and enjoyed his time. I think has tremendous upside as well. I mean, his win-loss career at 39 and 62. He's got 133 starts with and 4.80 ERA, almost 800 innings pitched, 536 strikeouts, a career WHIP of 1.40. Let me see if I can get that baseball reference. Here we go. Baseball Reference WAR. His career WAR is considerably lower at 1.5, but that's the big difference there. I mean, listen to that career wins above replacement drop off from Freeland and Márquez into Jose Urena, and it kind of reminds you of how good these players are in Freeland and Márquez, and that Urena is still perfectly serviceable, and I think was a fine option to return to the Rockies. I'm not expecting a ton from him, but if he can strike batters out, striking out 60 batters with the Rockies last year, and actually I believe 123 strikeouts on the year, and giving up 21 home runs in that time, and a really nice stretch for the Rockies at the end of the season last year, where he finished this season in his last start there. Really nice finish against the Dodgers there in that 6th inning with 5 hits and only 1 earned run, one of them being a home run there against the Dodgers. But in September, got that ERA, dropped that ERA from from a tough August, bouncing back into a 4, around a 4-point ERA from a 7. And, only giving up the, 1 home run in September compared to the 6 that he gave up in August. So still stuff to be worried about with Jose Urena, but if he's going to, it's again, a low risk option that fills in there. And the Rockies have 2 more options, I think, that are going to fill out the rotation here for them. We'll talk about their impacts here, and of course give a shout out to our man Kyle Freeland as well in the World Baseball Classic. Coming up here in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, the Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your favorite time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. I love anything brownie related, so you'll be having my votes if it's got brownie in it, except if it's mint. I like a chocolate brownie explosion of Built Bar goodness. That's what I like. You can go and check it out and vote for your favorites. Support your team, support your bar, support your favorite puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entering into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. Got to try Built Bar, the best protein bar ever. They got those great macros covered in 100% real chocolate, high protein, low sugar. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick at BuiltMarchMadness.com. We are the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and thank you to Rat King and Joel DeGrace for being in the live chat today, bringing all sorts of great comments and more. Rat King says, we definitely need to be more creative in our search for pitching. Would love an analytical overhaul for how we choose guys in the draft, since free agent arms are so hard to come by here in Denver. Joel DeGrace says, I really like Lawrence for that weird aspect, sidearm, high velocity. I'd love to have a Chesick O'Day type submarine tosser, but I'm getting off topic. We already talked about the bullpen, and I already told you I'm very excited for Justin Lawrence there. I think a big prove-it year for him as well. Joel DeGrace also adds, I think Jose is out to prove he's still got it. He's cheap, and he's been putting in the work. He's a solid number 3 for our rotation, given what we have. And this leads into Rat King's a great point here. Who's the number 5 arm with Sens out? Fangraphs predicts Connor Seabold. Joel DeGrace says, I think 4 and 5 is going to end up being Gomber and Feltner. And I am going to agree with that, except flip. I think maybe Peter Lambert's going to get in there, but that is going to be the rotation until Senzatello returns. And then, when going back to Urania, he drops back to 4. Senza goes into year 3, the ultimate ground ball guy. And someone, though, Senza is great, but a reminder, and what we've seen with Senza, too, is if you can't strike people out, that's a bummer. And Senza needs to do more of that, but Senza needs to get healthy and get back on the field before we talk too much about Senzatella. The next spots in the rotation, Austin Gomber wants to be a starter. I think that's really what he wants to do, and I think that's really what the Rockies want as well. Veteran arm back there, and someone that I think we need to see more of. I just have not seen enough for me to sit here and be overly confident in Austin Gomber as a starter. Hold on, a little dry throat here. But I do like him as a long relief option, and he's still, but in this situation, especially with Senza out, it's a prime spot for Gomber to fill in. It's exactly what you have for what Gomber's done. This is exactly how he's wanted to, exactly how he's factored into the Rockies and filled in since falling out of the rotation. But this is here. Here's your moment. Again, an opening in the rotation. Scratchy throat. Mondays, But anyway, Austin Gomber has potential. But just like Jose Urania, just like Ryan Feltner and Peter Lambert, it's prove it time. Show me what makes you great. Show me what makes you excellent. And again, to compare here, Austin Gomber's career WAR, 2. Compared to Freeland and Germán Márquez. But Austin Gomber's career, much shorter. At least professional-wise. Gomber in the league since 2018, not pitched in 2019, at least in the majors. So, it's still not an abundance of experience like Freeland and Germán Márquez have, but hasn't been able to recapture that first exciting moment that he had when he first started with the Rockies and didn't total 100 strikeouts last year, even though he was in 124 innings. High ERA last year, 5.56. Simply need more. Austin Gomber doesn't necessarily excite me. Neither does Feltner. Neither does Peter Lambert, to be totally honest, until they show me what they're capable of. So when we ask ourselves the question of the Rockies, the state of the Rockies starting rotation, I think the start of it is great. I really do. I believe highly in Germán Márquez and Kyle Freeland. I am putting them in the category of great pitchers. And then in the middle, Urania, Gomber, Senza, we'll see. And then for that last spot, the young guys got to step it up too. We got to see what health means for these guys as well. Some decent springs from some of these guys. We're going to keep watching them. A spring with pitching, kind of weird, but stuff to watch for. But the confidence in the Rockies rotation is still not that high because the confidence in the rotation really falls off after you're starting 2 pitchers. Who's going to start opening day for the Colorado Rockies this year? It'll be Kyle Freeland. I think the Rockies are going to stick with the rotation that they did last year and go with how they did. I think Kyle Freeland will be your 1. I think Germán will be your 2. Hereña will be your 3. Gomber will be your 4. And Lambert or Feltner will be your 5. That is my projections for the starting rotation for the Rockies. And then you can just shift Hereña and Gomber or, Feltner, however, or Lambert out, putting those other ones in the bullpen when Senza comes back in May, which is what I believe they are reporting. Folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. You can catch our episodes free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We are also available live on YouTube, where you can be part of the live chat, just like Rat King and Joel DeGrace. When you subscribe to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, you help the show grow. You help out a ton just by clicking that button. It's a massive, massive help. Tell your friends. Let them know we're talking Rockies baseball 5 days a week here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Go make Locked On Fantasy Baseball or Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, or Locked On Buffs your second listen of the day. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.